Welcome back to this completely strange format, and we start right in at this enchanting waterhole where my vultures are having a drink from friends while I stare lost in thought into the distance. I noticed in the first 20 seconds that the sound from Discord is on there and you can hear the chatter the whole time. Well. I'll extract the voices but in case there are any strange noises. Yes, that's probably my inattention in the form of a fellow player's voice. I'm very happy, because that means so much more work for me. Yay. The gameplay was initially all about raising our trike friend to make him a fighting machine. It was so incredibly idyllic that I could probably spend an hour showing you how we run from one flower to the next. But since that's not particularly exciting for any of us, let's just fast forward. And when we reached the savannah, as the fastest group, I had a quick look to see if there was any danger in sight. Well, and there were already 2 Achillos running towards me. How nice! Of course I did the only right and heroic thing. I ran to my group for protection and distraction from my person. I turned round once more to make sure they didn't lose interest. But no, they didn't let me down. And now, I'm going to shave your arse, you lousy vultures. Unfortunately, Patches and Achillos are so similar in terms of speed that it's really difficult to land a decent hit. As we can see, I mainly hit the air or some bushes. Unfortunately, they were soon no longer interested in fighting us, so our Iggy caught up with them. We followed behind. Unfortunately, we are on a server with rules, and since he had officially left the POI, we were unsure whether we were still allowed to attack. But no problem. He ran straight back into the POI rejoicing. Problem solved. Of course, I had to jump into a stone as a distraction. Pure tactics and exceptional skill. Only experts know what I was doing here. Don't you dare accuse me of being an oopsie. Unfortunately, my stamina was now also running low, and in the end I thought the 2 would get away easily. So I had to rest first, because it wouldn't have made sense that way. And tada, there they are again. You have to give them credit for their tenacity. And then, suddenly, there were 3. Or am I completely blind? I really didn't notice, and was a bit unsettled. In addition, my stamina was draining wonderfully again, and I kept thinking, it can't be that they're getting away now. And then we lost sight of everyone for a while. So I had a snack, and then wanted a drink, and looked at him standing at the waterhole. One of the Achillos. I was still unsure about attacking again, because although we were actually allowed to go back in, I felt it was somehow unnecessary. But the Achillo made the decision for me. I actually wanted to scare him off with my threatening gestures, but apparently he wanted to spank my arse, and so the treasure hunt began again. But this time, it was going to be different. Not only was he hiding in the cave, which at least 2 of us could fit into. At first I thought it was an ambush, but it turned out to be an act of desperation. Then this little sausage squeezes through the smallest slit, and so the wild ride continues again. But what I found particularly funny here is that this Achillo apparently thought that a sacrifice had to be made to the herbivores of the savannah. How can you stand there looking so stupid when a teammate is being attacked? Honestly, I don't blame the black Achillo. He went in immediately, but the one with the mask just stood there for too long and was afraid for his own arse. Poor dude. You'll always be in our hearts. May you respawn in peace and with better teammates. And now it's getting really funny. We carry a bar and decide to invite him into the group. However, we weren't compatible with each other. So I switched to my city. But then he left the group, and I switched back to my Pachi. That really was a very necessary endeavor. Thanks for that new team member. a young trike stumbled across our path, and my heroic side came through again, wanting to keep this little beady-eyed baby safe. So the whole gang stomped off towards the home cave. Of course, we couldn't invite the poor thing into the group, but most Carnas are as smart as a meter of dirt track and don't know whether we're compatible or not anyway. Fake it till you make it. And at dawn the next morning, we arrived back in the extremely safe Grand Plains area. Although today, it's more of a grand forest. Someone gave me a trophy, and so I looked for a baby to donate it to. Someone soon got in touch, and so I set off on the arduous journey to deliver the trophy. But eventually I got there, and who would have thought it? The person wasn't there yet, but no problem. I like to wait outside the home cave ready to snack. I'm always grateful that there are rules on this server. And back to the group, which was expanded by another member while I was away. I returned to battlefield, for Smill was almost mortally wounded in a fight. So we built a shield wall around his humble self. Unfortunately, the idyll was not to last long. A Carney stormed in from the right to take out Scruff. So why don't we attack? In fact, it was exactly the second I turned round that concealed whether Scruff had landed the first blow or the Carney. So we were all hesitant to engage, and honestly, watching this footage totally disturbs me. We're sitting there like in the cinema watching our teammate get slaughtered. And before that, I'm still bitching that the Aquilo with the mask is a comrade pig. I'm no better. So Scruff, if you see this, I'm sorry. I still think of you today and the moment you were brutally torn from life. And here, we have again the disadvantage of playing on a server with rules. The server crashed, and the two idiots no longer had a body, so I almost thought it might come to a fight, because they hadn't been really friendly after Scruff's death anyway. And I was proved right. These predictable banana buns actually attacked. And so a fight broke out, which I'll just show you now, unedited. I then did my best to distract them so that Smeal and Mission could escape, and it actually worked out well. They were so focused on flattening me that they hardly noticed that my mates were fleeing. Later it turned out that the blue one was actually a one-shot. Unfortunately, you couldn't tell at all, and a bite like that hurts a low animal badly. As we had all got away, I just left it at that. In hindsight, however, I'm really annoyed. I'm always in love with the landscape of the game. It's just as blinding as the real sun when you're driving on a wet road. Nice. We moved on in the meantime and stopped for a drink in the birch forest. On the one hand, I love it when it's quiet. On the other hand, it can get boring really quickly. Then it was all about questing again, which was one of the main reasons why we left Grand Plains. And in the end, it's just really boring for you to watch. We don't even pass through several POIs, we're just in the same place. So, should we call it a day? Not that there wasn't enough going on. We weren't there alone. But in the end, nobody wanted to attack us. And now it's getting really stupid again. A Croce came up to us, and someone wrote, "Kill me," in the chat at the same time. Without thinking twice, Smill kicked the little crocodile away. I was shocked at first, because we had no way of knowing whether the message really came from the crocodile. But hey, that was a perfect sign to stop and go to therapy. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.